Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This biggest show where it's about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Motherland, Fort Salem, episode 6. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. We're dealing with the aftermath of everything. And obviously, Abigail's giving her statement, but as you can tell, like, she's a little frazzled and just dealing with everything. And so when she kind of tells the sequences of events, it's not 100% in order. Understandable, so, but it's just kind of like, because she jumped to, like, went from, like, oh, my mom came in to, like, them pinning me down and stuff like that, but that happened, like, well beforehand. But, like, understandably, like, her... But I think that's why the person that was interviewing was kind of like, we can take a break. But what was the statement that came over her mind? It's like, I'm a bellwether. I can keep going. That's the sad thing. Like for Abigail, I think it's a situation where she thought she'd be prepared. She thought like, oh, because I'm the top class of everything, I am a bellwether. I'm ready for anything. And this rocked her world. This shook her confidence to the point, like even throughout the episode, she's like, I can do this, but why can't I? Like, because like when she's going against Bridie, her bodyguard, it's like, why can't I do this? I can do this. I know I can. I just can't do it now. Because she's not allowing herself to fully grieve. Because for her, it's like she's putting up this front of like, I have to be strong. Because, you know, she has to be strong because like, I'm a bellwether. I'm not supposed to show any weakness. I'm supposed to be the example. I should be kind of leading the charge. I'm supposed to be presenting myself like a leader. But she's not allowing herself to grieve. Because I think in her mind, it's like, if I show any like grievance or sadness and let it consume me, then I become weak. You know, that's the thing. Like, because I think it's also... I think an argument could be made. Not saying this applies to real life, but I'm just saying maybe this could apply to real life, but definitely in this particular case, because she is a soldier. She's supposed to soldier on. Soldiers aren't supposed to be weak. For her, it's probably like soldiers are supposed to be mentally strong. Like a soldier will be able to trudge on through despite this. But I think that's also the thing of like, you need to give yourself the time to be human. And obviously a witch in this case, but you have feelings. You can like be mentally and emotionally broken. And it's like, that can affect you in more ways than you like, but it's like by bottling up, it's not going to do you any good because having vulnerability doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. It makes you like anyone else. You know, everyone has their vulnerabilities, their moments. So, and even her mom is kind of shaken because it's like, right, your niece is gone. Plus, your daughter was close to being killed. Like, of course, that's going to shake you a little bit, too. But she being her, who she is, like, obviously, she's older, so she has a lot more experience. So, she has a little more leeway with it than her daughter. It's like, you're what? Once again, you might be like 18. You might still be a teenager, even if you're in your early 20s at all. Like, because I don't know, they've never expressly said like how old anyone in this place is. I'm assuming like 18 because they're supposed to be signing up for like war college and stuff like that. So I'm thinking of that's kind of been my understanding. But it's like, you're a teenager. If anything, you're like in your early 20s. Like, you're allowed to kind of like not be able to like keep yourself together considering the circumstance. Even normal people would fall apart no matter what their age. Even older people would fall apart under seeing what you've seen and experience what you experienced. But her mom tries to keep it in order because it's like, right, I'm this general, I'm this respected officer, I'm looked upon at a time like this, especially because like we need to figure out what went wrong. So she's listening to all the seeds because it's like, right, our abilities were blocked. It's like, yeah, like she's like, this particular seed, I went up against it and beat it 7 years ago. So that's not the one they used. We never found out whether or not they actually found out what seed it was because we do know, like obviously this episode taps into it a little bit, but there are rare seeds out there. So whoever concocted this one might have a rare seed that might not be like publicly, something that could be replicated easily. So, because even at one point during the episode, Sarah's asking, like, yeah, I want you guys to teach me your songs, you know? Because that was a whole conversation back in episode 3 was like, oh, like, you don't want anyone else getting to this nomadic group of witches, but you want to, so you can learn their songs. Kind of like, you want to try and take advantage of the situation, which it seems like she is still kind of doing that. Because she talks about it, that it kind of seemed reminiscent to, like, songs she heard. And it's like, basically, it's like, right, we're holding on to our songs because you gave your songs to the world by weaponizing them, which for her, it's like, I defended myself. I gave my people somewhere that is safe. And he's like, really? Is there anywhere safe? So it's like, our songs will stay with us. We won't be teaching you. The moment we're done here, we're going to move, because we're not going to have our songs used as weapons. To be fair, in her circumstances, it's like, she was on the verge of death. She just watched her sister die, so of course she's going to weaponize it. Now, probably that one circumstance, they probably would have let it slide, but the fact is that she's going as far as she has to militarize witches and use their songs as weapons. It's like, this isn't what it's meant to be doing, but it's like, it might be a thing of... Because long before the spree existed, she was helping fight wars with other witches, her songs as well as witches' songs. So for them, it's like, we're going to be like the last groups whose songs stay what they are and not weapons. It's like, because I'm sure for them, it's like, you've bloodied those songs. These songs that were kind of our people's song that were beautiful, those songs are now, those vocals are forever tarnished because they're used as weapons to fight and kill, So I think it's kind of an interesting element because it is a thing of like, you're weaponizing a part of our culture, like who we are, like part of our identity are these songs and these vocals, and you're using them as weapons. You're using them to hurt and kill people. And it's like, so I just think that's kind of an interesting thing because it's like, yeah, you want to learn them not just to, attach yourself to like a long lost like songs and kind of your people, but it's like, no, you want to do it because it's another weapon in your arsenal against the spree. To be fair, it's also coming from a place of you need a new arsenal to keep up with the spree when they're going as far as they are, committing atrocity after atrocity. Which, speaking of, it wasn't just Charvel that was the only victim. It turns out there were like 16 others across like, what was it? They said like 6 different states. Or something of that nature. And it's like all their vocal cords were cut. And then like, Petra was like, oh, no. Like, they normally don't go after witches, which I was like, what was the whole Kiev thing then? Like, they killed witches in that particular case. They killed that general's daughter. But I guess it's like, they don't actively, when they're attacking, they're going after civilians. Because I guess, like, civilians in their eyes are kind of lesser than. So they never go up against their own kin. But I think it's like, if it's out of, like, defense, yes. But actively attacking, like, if it's like, oh, you're coming after us, we're going to defend ourselves, killing you, like, sure. Maybe you're a byproduct of it, like, you might be collateral damage, but that's about it. Like, I don't think it's kind of implying like they don't actively go after witches, but it's like to go through the trouble of cutting out their vocal cords, like, these had to be witches. I'm like wondering why they are, like, maybe it's kind of like meant to be a symbol of like, you don't deserve these songs of yours. They're being basically used for this militarization, and it's like they shouldn't be. If you're not going to use them for the right, you're going to lose them. Now, that's my initial thought, but then it gets a little complicated when we find out multiple things. One, these people were bellwethers. I was like, oh, so that's why this was a consecutive strike like that. I was like, oh, this is a particular attack against the bellwether bloodline. I wonder is it because they've always been kind of like a right hand to like Alder, to Sarah, so maybe that's why. Maybe because also they're like, amongst like the high Atlantic, it seems like they're like the top tier. So it might also be like a blow against the general. Like it's supposed to be kind of a spit in her face, Petra's face, of like, yeah, we're coming after your family. But what's also interesting is we find out, because it's like, oh, where's the marks? And they're faded. It turns out these are people who most likely didn't even know they were witches, because like, right, they're this is a branch, probably like a weaker like bloodline. I guess you can almost think of it as like the Hyugas from Naruto, where it's like Petra's bloodline is like, oh, we're the main, like Hina, I forgot, Hina's the main branch, and then like Neji's one of like the branch families. So I guess Petra's like Hina, and then like these other families are like Neji. The like bloodline is so diluted, like Petra's Goku. I'm going all these like anime analogies, because he's like full-blooded Saiyan, and then like the branch families are like Pan, they're like a fourth Saiyan, because Gohan's half Saiyan and he has like a child with a human. So it's kind of like that thing. It's like, yeah, this is a bloodline that got thinned out because they through potentially marrying civilians. So a lot of these people most likely didn't know they were witches, so the whole point was to kill more of the bellwether bloodline, because even if they don't know they're witches, they still could procreate and create more witches. And it's like, no, like, we're killing this bloodline. So that could have been a statement. What was interesting though is like, obviously her mom decides to give her Abigail a bodyguard, and it's like, I don't need one. It's like, you need one, because they were going to gun for you because you are like someone that could potentially give birth to a daughter eventually down the line. So they're trying to like wipe our bloodline out. Maybe it's a personal thing. Maybe it's just in general, like, this is the best way to kind of crush this military force is by wiping out one of its strongest bloodlines. Because that's what I was wondering. I was like, because I kept being like, why Charvel in particular? But it seems like that's a factor in it. But also, it's probably a thing of get Charvel. But it's probably a thing of like, if it wasn't for Abigail coming back like she did, they probably would have tried to come after her at another point in time. Because it's like, right, you're here. We got enough bellwethers gathered that we can strike. Her mom doesn't seem worried because she's like, they're more after people who are appropriate enough age to be able to have more kids. I guess like she's at a point where it's like, yeah, my having kids days is kind of over right now. So like maybe that's why she's like, I'm not necessarily the target. Plus her being a general and everything, she'd probably be a little harder to kill. Charvel and Abigail probably like softer targets probably in that regard. So, but obviously we learned a little bit more about Abigail spending time with Bridie, which I thought was kind of interesting. I keep thinking in my head, like, is it Birdie or is it Bridie? I think it's Bridie. Like, I kept seeing it written out, but I kept, like, because I was far away from the TV, I kept, like, flipping the I and the R around. So I think it's Bridie and not Birdie, but I could be, like, mistaken. But it turns out, like, because obviously, she's actually there to help, Abigail, like, it's like, because obviously she's a well-trained soldier, and obviously she was like, at first she didn't want it, because, like, for her, it's like, I'm already getting upstairs because people are just waiting for me to break down, so, like, obviously, her mom kind of forces it upon her, which, once again, showcases, like, her mom isn't doing this to be a dick. It's like, nah, I want you to be safe. I almost came close to losing you. I'm never going to let things get that close again. And sadly, Abigail internalizes a lot of that and is like, I let my guard down. She's like, I wasn't there to protect my cousin. I almost died because, like, no matter how much I know, I let my guard down. So you have to be forever vigilant that the attacks could come at any moment in time. So, once again, it is that thing of, like, for a while, like, Abigail thought of herself as kind of hot shit. This kind of took her down a peg or two. Like, I think it took a blow to her confidence. But she's talking to Bridie about, why her eye doesn't get fixed. And it's like, she chose not to, because like during a battle, they got attacked on all fronts, and basically she used a wind strike, but the wind strike ended up striking a cliff, which was badass, but it ended up blocking off her sister's escape route. Once again, I never know whether she means like sister, or does she actually just mean like legitimately just sister as a part of my unit. I mean, I think the distinction doesn't matter amongst witches, so I don't think it really matters. I mean, because you would almost say like maybe the severity of like, it does matter because, like, that lets you know, like, how strong that bond is if they were actually blood sisters. But I think the whole point of a unit is for you to treat each other like family. So losing one of them is like losing a blood relative. It's supposed to be that significance anyway. So that's why I'm like, for the witches, it probably doesn't matter, like, whether it's blood or not, or whether it's just part of the blood or no blood. It's like, you're my sister, And for her, it's like, I couldn't see the world the same way without her in it, so she's like, I don't deserve a second eye. Like, she punished herself like that, Because I guess this way, it's like, now I changed my view of the world, because then now it kind of reflects a world without her in it, so that regret, so that's why she never got her eye fixed. She needed it to be a constant reminder of what she lost and what she did. In her mind, it's like, me and my unit, we abandoned. It's like, we knew it, she knew it, but still, it doesn't make what we did okay. Like, it stopped, so So I thought that was kind of interesting. What I also think is kind of interesting, too, is Liba not saying anything. Because obviously, like, now would have been a time to, like, strike at Abigail, but it's also, like, I'm not that much of a D-bag. Like, me and her may have our issues, but she was just kind of looking at Abigail, and it's not like a ha-ha-ha-ha. It's like a, damn, I'm sorry that you experienced what you experienced. That's tough. That's rough. Like, no one should have to go through what you went through. But once again, like, Abigail's trying to be tough. Like, obviously, Raelle as well as Tally are trying to be there for her. And then she kind of snaps back, but she's like, yeah, I'm kind of like a beehive right now. I'm like, please don't. I'm like, I think she's a beehive right now. I'm like, don't poke me, But it is a thing of like, right, thank you for your concern and trying to, And obviously, Raelle's kind of going through a similar, like, oh, I'm going crazy thing, because she's trying to find out what happened to Scylla. I keep doing that, Scylla. And it was like, she's asking Anacostia, and it's like, yeah, we're looking for her. It's like, you already had issues with her, and you're not trying your best. It's like, it's above your pay grade. We're looking for her. And obviously, it's a thing of, Anacostia probably was like, shut your mouth, don't tell her anything, when it came to Tally. And now Tally's feeling conflicted, because it's like, right, I know this secret that should I tell Raelle, but it's like, I'd be disobeying orders if I told her. But like, obviously Raelle is losing her damn mind about this, because she's worried sick about, Scylla to the point like she breaks into like where the Necros do their thing at, and she comes across this wall and it's white, and then she touches it, and it because it kind of extends out, and it's like, whoa, did you touch that? She's like, no, why? It's like, no, it'd just be a bad thing. And she says it's a mushroom, which I'm like, we know the mushrooms are tied to the underworld, so I'm like, you don't think of some shape or form like, because we saw a face at first, I was like, could it be that Scylla is kind of stuck there, like that's where they're keeping her or where they're going to be interrogating her? It doesn't seem like it based on stuff later on. But in that moment, I was like, now in retrospect, I'm like, you don't think it's her mom? Like that's a representation, like that, like it's a because Scylla had told her like mushrooms have a tie to the underworld, so I'd assume that's what that is. She does have a smidge over her finger, so I'm like, I don't know if that has any effect over kind of what happens in the episode, or whether that has some effect on her later on. I mean, that might also be why she kind of ended up so. I mean, to be fair, she put on a whole bunch of salva, so like that doesn't help, because that was something they kind of practiced this episode, was the salva, and obviously the entire time she was flying, she was thinking about Scylla, because the one time she did salva, it was that moment, it's just kind of like, oh, like this heart-pounding, like, connecting moment between them, so she was kind of latched onto that during that moment. But, obviously, I knew something was up, like, the way, like, Anacostia was kind of dodging it, and also, because if she had actually died, she would have just said something from the beginning. I was like, that's why I, like, even brought up last episode, it's like, either, like, her, like, the spree came and got her and want to punish her for failing, or Anacostia, like, snatched her up at the last minute, and we kind of find out that is the case. But it's like, the moment her necro teacher was like, yeah, you haven't found out these, we don't have enough details yet. I'm like, are you about to actually tell her the truth? And it's like, she's dead. I was like, okay, so you're in on it too. You want to make sure that no one comes looking for Scylla. Like, the fact is, so Rio stop asking questions, because it's like, you're going to need your, because at first I'm also like, why not just say anything? But I think it's also the thing is, if you want to keep this hush-hush because you don't want people to know that you were on to Scylla, because if you were on to Scylla, like anyone else that might be a spree will kind of go into hiding or disappear, so you got to find out what she knows first and find out if there's any others. Plus, it also turns into a thing, if you make it public, it's going to like turn into dissension amongst the ranks, because everyone's going to turn against each other, because it's like, wait, any one of these people could be a spree too, so the last thing you want are your units and your people having these people who are like sisters to each other turn on each other, and it's like, we need to be coming together at a time like this, not falling apart. So, because they also probably don't want to take the chance that Rayo may still try and stick up for her, because there is a whole thing of like, no matter what, I'm here, no matter who you are, what you were, I'm in it, you know. So like, will Rayo, I mean, because Rayo, she doesn't 100% agree with the way the spree handle things, but there's certain ideologies that they have. She doesn't stray too far off that. Like, it is enough that you could see, like, the spree being able to kind of slide some of her beliefs more towards their direction. Like, she's malleable enough in that way, but I think there's other aspects of what they do she completely disagrees with, you know. But when it's like Scylla, maybe that could potentially change a lot, you know, when it comes to Rio, just because like her heart would be doing more to speaking rather than like her brain, you know, in that regard. So I don't know, maybe that's kind of, you know, an element of why they don't tell Rio. I mean, to be fair, it's none of their business, but also once again, I don't think it's just like, I think they just don't want anyone to know, let alone Rio. So, and obviously, like, Rayo's having a hard time processing, like, no, she can't be dead. She was supposed to go to the beach together, her lighthouse. No, it's the safest place, right? She's obviously got to be there. And rather than Tally telling her in the moment, it's like, no, she's already dealing enough, because Scylla probably is dead, because since the necro teacher told her. So it's like, because of that, it's like, I can't add on more fuel to the fire by telling her the truth. So it's like, no, I'm going to let her hold on to the memory of who Scylla was to her, and just kind of not tarnish that, because she needs it to kind of keep going forward. So obviously, I think the episode is called Upside Down, Up and Down, or something like that. It might be the former, not the latter. So it's a very befitting episode, because once again, like, Tally's struggling with like, should I tell anybody? And she brought it up to Anacostia, but Anacostia was like, no, don't tell anybody, you know. And now she was even having that conversation with Glory. Like, she was talking to Glory, but Glory was more so just like responding like, yeah, sure, okay, totally. But it's like she's trying to justify it by being like, yeah, like the whole point of, you know, us as a unit, we're supposed to work together as a unit. So basically, if I'm hiding something, that's me doing it for the greater good, and it's me obeying orders. So she was trying to justify in her head of like, right, me lying to Rael is for the right reasons, which I do believe. Like, I think there are lies for good reasons. It's a complicated and slippery slope, because even white lies can turn into a whole complicated thing, because like some people make excuses like, oh, I never lied to you, I just didn't tell you the truth. I didn't tell you the whole truth. I just admitted certain information. It's like, that's still lying. And it's like, because some people tell you the truth always sets you free, but sometimes, like, the argument could be that, like, a lie is better than the truth, and it will hurt but I mean, also by not telling Raelle the truth, like, whenever this Scylla thing does come up, it might sway her a little the other way, because she might not have the information to know, like, nah, Scylla's bad, you know. So that might be an element to it. So it's like, it might be better for her to know. Once again, we'll have to wait and see how things kind of shake out. But Raelle tried to use everyone's salva to fly to the lighthouse, and she does, and she's pretty banged up afterwards, but she's like, no, she can't be dead, you know. But, you know, Tally and Abigail tracked her down. Like, obviously Bright is like, no, you're not supposed to leave here, but she's like, at the beginning I thought Raelle was a shitbird, and that she would hold this unit back, but time has gone by and she's proved that wrong. Like, she doesn't. The fact of the matter is, she is my sister. You have regrets about leaving a sister behind. Like, I don't, like, let me do what you weren't able to do. Let me go out there, save my sister, and bring her home, you know? So they were able to do that. But we also find, like I said at the end, that Anacostia does have her questioning, Scylla. But obviously, it's like, once again, that's why the mark popped up on her hand, because it's like, right, she's trying to signal her, like, no, I'm still alive, you know? So, and she's still trying to send that, not unless she's trying to send that to somebody else too, but you would only assume it's her trying to talk to Raelle, not unless someone else has his symbol. But it's like, and it's like, well, if you're not going to talk to us, I know someone else who you will talk to. And Sarah walks in, and you have that look on Scylla's face, like kind of like scared, but also like, no, I'm gonna stay firm. I believe in this cause. I'm willing to die for this cause. So we'll see how ultimately that all ends up turning out. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.